Jesse, look at this. Duhamel with 814. I guess Esfandiari has 809. Shaq 729. So three kind of big stacks, and Tricket just hanging on.
This whole thing. I got to take a stand.
The dynamic set up nice, especially between, you know, the three at the end of this table. I guess really the Esfandiari Duhamel matchup is kind of looming large.
Good job.
And Sam Tricket's not going to wait too long, is he?
Danger zone, Tricky.
Nah, it's not.
Daniel Shack from ivypoker.com, ladies and gentlemen.
See one post.
The blinds 10 and 20,000.
No .coms.
Wow.
Come
on, baby.
Come on, buddy. Like, you need to.
Is that wide enough to shove on 10 big blinds?
You know, Antonio has other options. He could just call here or make it 40. But I think that the decision is probably call or move in or fold.
And that may be solely based on the fact that there's no reason to double Sam up right now.
Oh, I should have been the razor.
That's got a big downside, doubling him up light.
It really has a huge downside. He just really wants Sam to, you know, I mean, it's important for Antonio that Sam doesn't get chips, because Sam is someone who he beat heads up. But actually, it's very interesting. Think about this dynamic, Jesse. In the first Premier League, I beat Juha Helppi heads up for a bracelet at the World Series.
That's right.
Then he faced me heads up here and beat three-handed and beat me. So if weird things are happening, it could come down to Tricket beating Esfandiari.
Maybe I've improved a little since the 3-5
right,
day.
and the other downside, I mean, Esfandiari feels like in a three-handed situation with Dan Shack and Duhamel. That's the best that could be from this point.
7 raises to 42,000.
Esfandiari, 42.
Oh, what a spot for Sam.
So beautiful to have fives in the spot.
Especially when the chips get put in. Cards get
now
turned over.
I get to do the squeeze first.
They showed his cards before he even squeezed them on the screen.
Call.
This is not a great situation for Esfandiari. He's got to hit the ace.
Mummy.
I love the way he reports to his mother. That's so cool. I mean, I've had my parents with so many poker cards with me. I just love having them around, you know?
Yeah.
Ace one time. Let me beat Tricket one time.
One time. You
Look at that.
Ace, baby, come on.
You know, considering that Antonio won 18.5 million and Tricket won 9 million for second, he basically beat him already for 9 million. So every time he says, "Let me beat him one time," they both laugh because it's a very subtle needle. By the way, interestingly, Duhamel folded Jack-8 of spades here.
Always say good luck to the player.
Wow. It's a big pass. Safe so far for Sam Tricket.
That's a really good flop for Tricket. He had a 4 up there, so he doesn't really have to worry about the board. All board double pairs don't hurt him.
Turn is deuce of hearts.
Not the best turn card. Now it's an ace or a 3 that'll beat him.
So sweet.
In the river.
I didn't even get to sweat it.
And that'll put the cat among the Trickets.
And Tricket is back in business. And look at this.
Jack-8 you had?
The chip leads that the chips that we have up on our screen, Jesse,
242.
suggests that Esfandiari and Tricket are now very close in chips.
Dan Shack doesn't have much more, and Duhamel has only got 800K. I mean, this is
That's
tight.
the old chips count right there, right?
Yeah.
No, that's the new one.
No,
This is the new one.
Yep, that looks right.
I think it was Queen of Hearts and 9 of Diamonds.
And Duhamel now a good chip leader. Wow. But actually, you'd have to say it's never been this wide open as far as tournament goes.
Wow.
I mean, there is a path to victory for every player now. Tricket, who was on fumes.
Antonio was, I believe, I believe he's the best player. If Tricket's not the best player, he's the best player. And he had the chip lead, so he was in really good shape a second ago. Had to be a nice mathematical favorite to win this. I mean, you know, when I say nice mathematical, I mean above whatever the actual math is.
No, you have a good.
And now the Tricket, the best of the second best player, depending how you cut it, is back.
And, you know, it's a factor of the blinds. I mean, you say ace-5, how can it be a cooler? But in that particular spot, it was a cooler to get the ace-5 against the 5s.
Yes.
Seed 8 raises to 40,000.
Here comes Sam. Ace-queen.
This does not qualify.
Seed 1 folds.
Now he's sitting on 20 big blinds, right? Ooh.
An ace-4 handed, Phil. It's strong in these players' minds. Oh my gosh! That's it! Tricket is going to double-double!
And Tricket double-double. He's going to have a huge chip lead. He's sitting at Antonio's left. This is just fantastic news for Sam Tricket. Not so good for Antonio. And Duhamel's in bad shape again for a big pot.
We saw Shaq fold a deuce.
Wow.
Probably like both have trips.
Think about that. 20 big blinds. Guy raising with. Do you move in with ace deuce there? I'm sure that some mathematical models say yes and some say no. And you know, that's where I try to use my read to the best of my abilities. But Duhamel stepped in it again.
He really has. I mean.
Ace of hearts, 5 of clubs.
I had deuce 3 of clubs.
Duhamel likes the clubs.
Pretty good flop for Tricket. So club is not very likely.
3 of clubs would be a nice card if you're a Duhamel fan.
That's a king of clubs.
And look at that, a jack or 5 now splits the pot.
That is really a sick card. Could it really happen? Could it be a club and he makes the second nuts Tricket and goes eliminated?
You can't do it to me in England.
Oh, that would be too sick.
There's too much English will.
Duhamel's
Tricket's fiancé there on the rail. And also one of his good friends, Chris Sly, can see them sweating him in, and they will.
Wow, double-double.
She's lovely, you know.
She's great.
They've been together 7 years.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
7 years, and she said to me in the car, I rode over with the two of them. They're just lovely to ride with. She said, Phil, I made him give me a ring.
Maybe I should have drank all the alcohol. No, I'm gone.
Maybe that's what helped.
Sam said, baby, you didn't make me give you a ring.
513.
That's great. No, it's okay.
Yeah, Castorino's my man.
Lovebird.
Yeah, I like about Sam Tricket is that you know he doesn't live. He lives like an hour and a half outside of London, so he just when he's home, he's home. Right. And I can relate to that. And I was saying I sleep a lot when I'm home, and she's like, well, he sleeps 12 hours a day. And the problem is you use so much energy when you're on the road playing poker. And when you come back, you know, it's easy to start saying 14, 12, all these crazy amounts.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, for a lot of these guys just like yourself and Sam.
I'm pretty drunk. I'm getting I've been drinking for a while now.
To have a real place where there is no poker, there's no poker talk, there's no poker games. Your downtime is downtime, and that helps them get fresh.
Yep. So you have Antonio with his mother here, which is very cool. Tricket's, of course, fiancé is here.
And then now you're a chipper.
to a milli.
His good mate Sly.
That's how Sam Tricket rolls.
That's a double-double. That's 2 hands, right? Bang, bang. All of a sudden he's chip leader.
I mean, chip leader. He's got nearly half the chips in play, or 40% anyway.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Funny thing is, if Jonathan doesn't have a hand and he just raises, I'd maybe flat with the 2-3 of clubs. Maybe. I'm too much of a name.
Well, Dan, you did fold the hand already. You folded for 40,000, so I don't know what scenario you're imagining, but.
C1 folds.
That could be the taxi hand. It is suited. Nope.
6 folds.
Not yet.
I'll tell you something. You know, all of these guys are just. I mean, they're really nice guys. You know, Tricket. I think Tricket doesn't have an enemy in the poker world. You know, nobody. You think of Duhamel. He's just loved by everybody. He's universally loved, and he's tough as nails, but just universally loved. That guy.
Absolutely
right.
It's just he travels around Duhamel with a couple of his old mates from Montreal, and they are fun. And He likes traveling with a little bit of an entourage like that.
And I've been out to the club with him 2 or 3 times by now, and I can't keep up with him. But he's Canadian, for God's sakes. I mean, you can't keep up with a Canadian. It's impossible. And Dan Sheck, another guy that just everybody seems to love, you know.
It's funny much about Tricket doesn't have an enemy. I mean, if there was going to be one guy in the poker world he was going to have it in for, it's the guy who beat him for 18 million. You know, and they just kind of seem to love each other. You know, have a great time ribbing each other and that sort of thing.
They really do. And here's Duhamel with the min raise on the button, and great for him. He had kings. Bad for him that they both had 4-3 offsuit.
Right.
And his decision there was for 317,000 or whatever it was. Do I want to move in or do I want to make it 40? I like the 40, you know. But there's some advantages to moving in. It looks like, you know, the last time you moved in it was ace deuce, right?
I know 2 of us have to run for the airboard. Like, so that's...
You have an early flight too?
Yeah, not as early as him, but I mean, that's like exhausting.
I have a 3 p.m. flight.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And Sam just gets to go home to his flat.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm an hour from home.
It's okay though, because when the World Series comes around, we're happy.
We turn the tables.
Everybody gets to play on their home turf sooner or later.
6-6 raises to 40,000.
He's kept it consistent. I guess he certainly could have moved with this. Just on the min raise.
I just counted it. I don't remember that.
That's a good line.
6-7 folds.
It's kind of nice when you can send 40 out in just one thought.
You just picked up 130 in 2 hands.
Easy, Mine's just so big now.
It's just so sick.
And that's good for the game, I think. You know, these guys are going to have to move chips. 4-handed, you've got a lot of options as far as you don't have to have a hand to move chips. There's not a lot of guys to beat, so let's see who plays this poker the best.
This is exciting stuff, Jesse. This is exciting stuff, you know. I mean, you have a former world champion, the guy who's leading the Player of the Year race, Antonio and Tricket, who have arguably had, the 2 of them who have arguably had 2 of the best years and 2 of the best. Excuse me. You have Antonio and Tricket, who have had arguably the best 2 years of anybody in poker, and ran 1 and 2.
A worthy Final Four, but as we know from Premier League history, nobody remembers who finishes second. And get your name on that trophy, get your name on that wall. It is a nice trophy.
Raises to 40,000.
I wouldn't know. But I'm gonna know. I'm gonna win this thing sometime soon. I'm gonna catch a little run good, and
there's very little missing from your resume, Phil. But at some point, this is gonna have to be conquered.
Is there someone you're rooting for, or are you supposed to remain impartial?
It's hard. I mean, from the standpoint of it, and I hate talking about justice in the poker world because it's not my philosophy. I don't think it exists, and I don't want it to exist. But I do believe that just based on the points and the way the heats went and how competitive they were, that both Duhamel and Tricket have just gone, you know, flat out sort of as far as the poker goes in this thing. They've both been involved in some really, really great poker hands.
And, raises to 40,000.
But beyond that, no. Don't mind.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I always like to say, you know, when there's a winner, you like to say, yeah, I can remember when he did that, and that was spectacular. And I mean, it makes a better story for the future.
Right.
You know. But
6 of diamonds, 9 of diamonds, 3 of spades.
Maybe the guy who wins is going to be the guy who plays best from here on out as well.
That's 45,000.
And I believe that Dan Sheck had to do things special if the time calls for it. And it could be fun to see.
He didn't warn us how exhausting this was. You didn't warn us how exhausting this was. You've done it every year, or is this the second?
No, that's bad for Dan Scheck to say that. You know, you didn't warn us how exhausting it is. Don't bring exhaustion into it when you're forehanded. Don't get that thought into your mind. I can tell you that that's not a good thing.
Right, that's a negative thought.
That is a negative thought, and negative thoughts are not good.
But he did say something funny just before this final table started. They were talking about, you know, the sort of the long schedule, and someone said to Dan, "This must be like you know, a regular day at work this week." And he said, "What are you talking about? Work's easy. I mean, compared to this, this has been hard. I'll take my day job any day."
It's grueling, you know. these tournaments like this one where you're just working hard all week. It can be so grueling.
1 volts. 6 volts.
It is.
I like the fact Dan's eating like a little sugar there, you know, to give him a little extra energy, you know.
Wow, look at this. The fans locked in on the rail. They're liking
7
this.
calls.
Let's see what Sam does here. Does he get crazy and do something here?
Seed 8 raises to 55,000.
Why did you feel that? How did you feel that?
Well, it's just, you know, he has opened the door for Antonio to make a move here. Can Antonio suss it out?
Huh. He is, you see the wheels turning, Antonio, and it's like when he gets the bit in his teeth.
I like that, the bit in his teeth.
Nice. He's like a racehorse. They say the racehorse, you know, when they taste the whip, they feel it. Nope. But what I really like about Antonio is that he can look so relaxed. He'll be joking around, and then something will happen, and it's like a click. He just, like, his face washes over. He gets very hard, very stony-eyed, and then you know that he's just locked in, and you realize that he's kind of been watching all the time. But
well, it's more like you pick up a hand and then you need to focus. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you notice everything in the periphery, but when you pick up that hand, it gets you a little more focused, I think.
Duhamel, yeah. Well, he's just decided that if it's not opened, he will. And yet he did fold the Jack-8 of spades in this exact spot earlier on. I guess chips are a little different now. He's the short stack.
Wow, Dan has him dominated with Jack-9 offsuit here.
Right, Duhamel just wants everybody to miss, and he's going to win this pot.
Queen of diamonds, 9 of diamonds, Jack of spades.
I don't think that qualifies.
Check.
I think Duhamel might check this. Let's see.
I was thinking he might shove. Of course he's got to check, right?
Well, he's supposed to check because that looks like it's in Dan's range. Oh, it's over for Duhamel.
Yeah.
Nice Premier League. 2 pair against 2 pair. What a cooler.
And there is no way out.
No way out. Unless, well, there's 2 5s left, but that's his way out.
Big one bets 80,000.
He'll think about it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to act too quickly. Give away the strength of his hand in case Dan has, like, you know, Jack-8 or something. He's even considering just smooth calling.
In case a scare card comes on the river?
No, if he smooth calls, he might think Dan maybe has ace, you know, 4 high, and will try to bluff him again. But he went all in. He did the right thing.
See one calls.
2 pair, better 2 pair.
Wow.
Just 2 5s in the deck, and for Jonathan Duhamel, he has really played this Premier League to a P.
he played so many of the players like they were a fiddle the whole time. He was in my heat. He really played amazing poker.
Some incredible pots. You know, he came out of the traps fast, won his first heat,
Good luck, boys.
dominated the Group A, which was
I'm in time with this.
a lot of people thought the toughest of the two groups, and certainly the class of that field was, the class of the group was incredible.
He really did acquit himself so well in this thing.
We did.
What'd you say?
And the one drop
place for Duhamel
in the group picture, the 48 players.
I mean, this is pretty incredible. You said yourself, how weird would it be if there was a rematch of the heads up for the one drop?
I think it's a beautiful story, and I'm happy.
But as Dan Shack says, don't let me get in the way of drama and history, but I've got my own plans, and who can blame them?
If they were to play each other heads up, Antonio and Tricket, okay, first place in a $125,000 buy-in tournament, okay, it wouldn't even be the buy-in for the one drop. So they played for $10 million before. This time they'll be playing for the difference between first and second, which is about $250,000. Right. And I'm sure if Tricket wins, Antonio will say, "Oh, I just wanted to beat you one time," or something like that.
Not any hand, though, basically. Well, some hands, but
just a third.
I had a feeling Dan Shack would get to this stage.
The one time.
He has to be underrated. Well, he has to be underrated. There's just no way. I mean, he has to be doing so many things right. It was very tricky. It's
you called
that
it.
Was a really sick
He's very technically sound, you know, and so when he finally does get involved, so he's playing very patiently. When he does get involved in hands, he seems to play pretty aggressively. So
I'm not one.
But the backup is that he's watching everything. He's not playing tight as an overall strategy. He's playing tight and he's
adjusting. Tell bad beat stories. That's the only one he'll ever tell.
I mean, I don't really tell it.
No, you don't. But
someone asked me about it all the
time.
Right,
I know that. You don't. No, you never bring it up.
It was right here in London.
What are they talking about? Antonio and taking a bad beat in London? I'm trying to remember.
And there's Antonio with ace deuce. I think he's going to ship it. No, he's just called.
Well, Jesus, is he limp to call? To call a shove?
Yep. He's doing the Phil Hellmuth, trapping with the ace deuce. He knows if Tricket raises 35,000, he just ships it and wins the 35, you know, plus all the other money. He knows if an ace comes, Sam doesn't see that he has an ace.
5 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 9 of clubs.
Now Antonio's flopped a straight draw. Let's see how he plays it. I mean, ace high is liable to still be good also.
7 bets, 31,000.
I'm just having a little think.
He's thinking about calling. He's thinking queen high might be good, or he might spike a queen or a 7. I think he's going to probably lay it down.
Two superstars.
So basically, it looks like Sam just saved a lot of money there by checking the queen 7 behind Antonio, and give Sam credit because he raised with the 10-5 when Antonio couldn't call, and he checked with the queen 7 when Antonio was going to re-raise him.
I feel like that's game flow, as they say. It's a very mysterious part of poker. It sort of involves getting inside your opponent's head, I think.
Yep.
I don't even know if the guys who are very good at it can explain it. So, well, I mean, it is a little mysterious, isn't it? It's just something you feel. Just know when a guy's going to be
7 raises to 41,000.
Be raising light, and when he's prepared to, when he's not feeling like raising light.
Some needed chips there for Antonio, you know. Win a pot. He's up to 576,000.
Well, Dan lets people get away with certain things. I mean, they will always attack his big blind at this stage.
Where'd my mom go, you know?
They just feel like maybe he's not playing loose enough. But then when he does get in a pot, he's very dangerous, right?
Exactly right.
Bacho. You know what a bacho is, Shaq?
No.
And he may well have just re-raised with King 9 all in there or something too. So it's not. He might let you steal, but then he's going to put the hammer down when he does finally get involved.
Well, this may be an example. Now he's probably got too much to shove, but
oh, he's definitely not shoving. The question is, what does he do here? He's already re-raised once with King 5 when Sam raised on the button. Now they're three-handed and he has King 6 suited, so why wouldn't he re-raise?
Seat 1 raises to 120,000.
Little on the large size, but that's how he likes them.
Seat 7 volts.
Sam doesn't know it, but a big re-raise gets the job done for him. I think most likely he's just going to fold.
Obviously, they have experience with each other. I think as super high rollers in Australia, they both play all of them.
Dan's just not a guy you want to bluff. He's just not a guy you want to bluff. And so, you know, it's when he finally does come over the top, I mean, the problem is that he might be coming over the top of you with ace-7. You might move all in, and he might call you anyway. So you're like, I know you have ace-7. I'm going to shove $1 million on you and get you to fold, and Dan calls anyway. So
from round in.
It's true. You know, he kind of sets out his stall. I'll give you my chips, but not quickly, only slowly. And you figure sooner or later somebody's going to make a mistake. It feels like they usually do. What a beautiful trophy. To me, it looks like one of those Stanley Cup type trophies, you know, where the winner should be drinking champagne at the end out of it.
I'm not even going to look. I'm not looking this time.
Good decision. You didn't want to know you had King High. Interestingly, and also, you notice that Antonio didn't show him that he's folding a jack high to him in the small blind, which that can go both ways, right? There's a reason he's not showing it, Jesse.
He doesn't want Sam to think he's playing a little tight.
Exactly. The reason to show it, though, would be to say, hey, listen, I'm just laying down the jack high to you. So when you do limp it, Sam can't just raise you indiscriminately.
It's the same thing with my work. It's the big boys. This is just the way I like it.
Okay.
Same thing in my business. I'm like the little fish against 2 sharks. Why? It's the way it should be.
I don't believe that.
Seat 7 raises to 41,000.
Antonio's going to be raising a lot of buttons.
I think you're going to see Tricket do something here. I mean,
he has to be aware of Dan Shack in the big blind, doesn't he? I mean, he can't just...
You can't just shove $1 million, but...
I mean, isn't there a problem that if he makes it like 100 here, Antonio can just shove with a lot of hands and put him under pressure and... Wow!
Very interesting.
He didn't like any decision. He took the one he liked. He didn't like the least.
Threw me off.
Well, I'm surprised there because Antonio's been raising Dan Shack's big blind all day long.
Sure.
And so that, you know, that what that says is he's raising with any 2 when it's Dan Shack's big blind, as you mentioned. And they think they can run him over. And so now he has an ace in the small blind, and I think he was probably supposed to do something about it there. Probably supposed to make it like 120,000 or something like that. Some amount where...
A little bigger to send a message. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that so then if Dan shoves $1 million, he can still fold and only lose 120. And Antonio's... What's he going to do? He's going to call 80 with Queen 7 offsuit? No.
Running on fumes.
We all are.
More negativity from Dan. I don't like it.
I know, and there's still 5 people who are at this table who'd love to be sitting here running on fumes with a chance for the title, the money.
Adrian must be tired too.
And the prestige.
Seat 8 calls.
Just call. Wow.
21 points.
You know, aside from anything else, something about winning this tournament, which is, it's not just like you won a tournament. It's like you beat 15 of the best poker players in the world, not just once, but over a period of a week. I mean, you beat them. You know, you beat them bad.
Spades, 3 of hearts.
Don't tilt me, please.
I bet
But
you
you're
beat,
right. You're right.
you know,
You're right. It's nice to know that you beat really some great players and over a whole week. It's true.
Because look, these guys all get around, and you know, when these guys are in Australia, they're going to say, "What happened last week?" "Oh yeah, Sam beat us," or "Oh yeah, Antonio beat us," and you're going to get asked probably next week, run into Mike Sexton in Venice, and say, "What happened, Phil?" You know.
So 9 of clubs.
Sorry about that, Phil.
Now Antonio hit his deuce and bet, and now Sam just called him, and of course if a king comes, it's a disaster for Tricket. Now let's see if Sam can do something here. He might also feel like king queen high is the best hand, you know.
C8 bet 66,000.
Well, he's bet it pretty solidly here.
Did you see the way he put the chips in? It looked like there was a problem as he kind of stumbled there at the end. Antonio might pick up on that and might just call him.
He looks quite alive.
7 calls.
It just looked weak.
Jeez,
there was that little
you
hitch
guys are
there.
so
you know?
zoned in.
In the river, 10 of clubs.
Oh,
That was
great card for
not
Antonio.
yet.
Yeah.
7 checks.
Is there a bet Sam can make that can get Antonio off a pot once he's got his claws into it?
Sam may all in it.
Jeez, I think you're right. I think he's got to knuckle this.
Nothing wrong with knuckling it.
Wise check, sir. You were getting insta-called.
He was. He was.
Ace 5, ace 4.
You know, and you know why, Phil. That's the incredible
Nice hand.
thing.
No,
Oh.
I didn't mean that. Sorry.
Yeah, Antonio said something
I
neatly.
forgot.
to him.
Never mind. I didn't mean to say that.
And then he said something needly to Sam, but right after he said it, he apologized immediately. So that was okay.
I actually think it just came out wrong. I don't think I think he was thinking something else, kind of like he was saying to himself, "Nice hand, you picked that up, you knew it," and I think it just kind of.
Well, I mean,
Actually.
Antonio's really good at needling people. He's done it his whole career, and so he needled Sam, but then realized, immediately caught it and said, "No, I didn't mean that," and he didn't mean that because. The fact is that, you know, I mean, he beat him for $9 million heads up.
That is the fact.
And Tricket's been a perfect class to him and still hung out with him, and you know, and I think it's cool, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you only beat Yuha healthy for a bracelet. He'll never talk to you. I mean, that's not true.
Yuha and I get along just
I know
fine.
you do.
Yeah.
I love the banter.
I really like
between
him.
you guys.
Yuha's just great. I mean, he really is. I mean, it's like, you see, Yuha is a family guy with a perfect reputation that everybody likes. So Yuha Helpy, I mean.
And he did get his revenge on you, and it was the most fun kind. When, do you remember the first 24-hour cash game? I think he made a straight flush on you or something like that.
I think that was against Fish.
All right.
Queen of clubs, 8 of diamonds, ace of clubs. C8 checks.
He was the original Premier League champion, you know,
So this is where, with an ace-queen 8 flop, a lot of times someone will check the queen in back here, you know, and just and opt to call down and try to get value on a different street. But Dan fires, and I tend to fire too, actually. So. But I can go either way on that one.
It's never going to be a three street sort of hand, so you have to decide which streets you want to bet.
Yeah. And I think the reason I fire on that board is I want to try to read my opponent. I want, if he's going to make a move, I want to try to read it and pick up 3 chips if he does. And I think, I don't know exactly why Dan does it, but a lot of guys are just going to check. They don't want to have to make that read if they get check raised and try to put the guy in a flush draw or straight draw or whatever, you know?
Oh, right. It's a very drawy sort of board. He's Queen 8, 2 clubs. Jeez, you could have anything.
Dan Shack, ladies and gentlemen. IvyPoker.com.
Well, if you have to say what distinguishes all 3 of these guys, or what's common about them, they're all pretty good survivors, and they've all exhibited some pretty good survival techniques.
You know, as fast as all of these guys are capable of playing.
41,000.
As fast as they're all capable of playing, they all have shown that they have the patience, you know? Antonio waited a long time before he got involved. Sam waited a long time before he got involved, and so did Dan, and they're the ones that are still standing. Their patience has served them well.
Think how low Antonio let himself get in those early stages. It seemed like he was folding his way out of the tournament, and he wasn't. He passed the ace-10. I mean, he made some big folds.
Yeah. I don't know if they were that huge, but the ace-jack was a big fold in that spot.
7 bets, 52,000.
And I think you're going to see Dan take action immediately here. A lot of people might just smooth call this, hoping that their opponent fires another bullet, but I think Dan is the kind of guy who's going to just raise it.
He seemed to know his game pretty well. You did know. He's gone back to the buffet bet, second helping.
One raises to 152,000.
Jeez, you knew he was going to raise before he knew he was going to raise. How about that?
Well, you know, there is some old school thought processes in there. I think the new kids are happier. Some of the new school process, and it makes sense. They think, all right, if my opponent has ace-7 offsuit, do I really mind giving him a free shot at an ace? Some other good stuff could happen. He could bluff off with something weaker, and so they put themselves in that position. And Dan's like, you know what? I think a queen's the best hand. I'm going to go with it. I'm just going to raise here. And if no king or 3 comes, he's going to bet big here. Excuse me. If
turn into 9 of spades.
Did I say no king or 3? I meant if no
overcard.
Yeah. No ace or king.
Such a huge hand. He has to.
He almost just doesn't want to lose him. From his perspective, wow, I'm starting to lose my voice here. 1 second.
He's going to lose him here. There's something about Dan Shack, and I'm sure it's because of his New York accent, anything, but he's got me thinking about John Benetti. Is there any of John Benetti in him at all? There's a guy who you knew as well as any player in poker.
I don't think there is, and I think that, you know, from Dan's point of view, he has top 2 pair here, and he's thinking that there's a chance that Antonio's just drawing dead. You know, Antonio could have Queen 8. He's been raising a lot. He could have Queen 7. He could have Jack 6. There's a lot of hands where he's really drawing dead. It turns out that if Antonio hits his king or 3, he's live.
Right, and he's kind of getting a nice price on this.
Only
Dan's
5
giving him a
outs.
nice price. I mean, should he be thinking to himself, why is Dan giving me a nice price? Dan never gives anybody a nice price.
Yeah, you know, and that's a legitimate question. And so I think that Antonio just has to get away from this. Dan is just too solid of a player. He just has to have it here. Seems like all the time. I mean, he's folded over and over and over in the blind. So what do you think he has? You know, 4-5 suited. You pretty much can assume he folded that. So you can't beat anything. So if Antonio's thinking about calling, I think he's just going to lay it down.
Mr. Shack, what do you got?
Just for fun, maybe he'll just have a little probe.
Well, it is only 150, and so...
I mean, the only draws that were out there on the flop were those low straight draws, and as right, Phil? I mean, it's not. That's not Dan's range, is it?
No. You know, maybe Antonio thinks that Dan has ace-3 and he can move in and win because Dan can't call with a 3. You know?
Or ace-6. Right. Boy.
Oh, that's. I just don't like that call.
There's not even that many scare cards out there, are there?
Dan doesn't care what, in his mind, he doesn't care what hits here.
As you say that, it's probably the worst card in the deck.
That's actually a good card for Dan because...
All in.
One is all in.
Wow, Dan right now he's saying woo. He doesn't want to say it out loud, but he's like woo. You know what I mean? He's just said woo because I mean, if Antonio snap calls him with 3-6, if Antonio has a 6, he's going to snap call.
Right.
So Dan now knows he has the best hand. But you know, so the minute that Antonio, you make that I'm all in, but you're scared to death, and the minute that the guy studies for like 2 seconds, you're like got him. You know. So now he has to shut up and not give anything away to Antonio.
I didn't believe you on the turn, but now I believe you.
Huh.
That's a good point.
I mean, he has taken a very opinionated line here, Antonio, to make the call on the turn in the first place because he knew he was
what should I do?
so unlikely to improve.
Very marginal hand, sir. Actually, I have total cockadoodle. But I like the number 3 for many reasons.
Sideways shuffle.
He's trying to get a live tell from Dan, but Dan's too smart to move his hands.
Dan knew he was going to do that. I mean, you have to always be prepared for that when you're with Antonio anyway.
Yeah. I mean, in the old days, we didn't really like it when people did that. We thought it was, you know. But it's okay. I mean, it's kind of, you know, kind of okay to do that.
And it's kind of fun for TV. I mean, I guess you were there when he put Tricket through the ringer. It was about 7 minutes.
I was there.
You know, when Tricket was sitting there bluffing, Antonio had the 2 kings, and
I give
wow.
Tricket.
I mean, he took him to the edge of the edge.
He really did, and
Mom,
Antonio
you should have a heart attack.
almost made the right move. Antonio almost made that call against Tricket.
Why? I called you on the turn to call you on the river, and now something tells me you have a hand. You got something, Shaq?
Antonio only has 350 left. That's why it's a tough fold. That's why what he's saying is the gospel truth. The gospel truth here is that Antonio called the 150 to call the 350 on the river. He doesn't want to leave himself with 350,000 in this lineup. He has to be very, very sure that Dan has it.
He's the greatest at that. I mean, even when you see him do it, you still think he's decided to fold, and then he just waits one more time.
He's done that to me before, and I probably haven't handled it the best. You know, I mean, just have to be ready for it with him. It's almost like you just have to put the sunglasses on and just.
And by the way, you were at the table when that big hand happened between Antonio and Tricket, and Tricket was in the tank. Did you have an opinion on whether Tricket was bluffing or not? I mean, you were down there. You're watching the hand.
I thought I was even money, and but I'll tell you what, Seaver swore he was bluffing. He swore he's bluffing 100%. He's bluffing. And to me, I was like 50-50. He could easily be bluffing here, you know. And I liked, the more that Antonio studied, the more I believed that Antonio was right if he made the call. But I didn't have some great read there. I didn't really, you know, pay attention closely to that hand, you know.
Who is the chip leader? It is Dan Shack. And if Dan Shack does go forward and win, you'll have to say that he's the guy who has been in the least amount of danger at all times in this Premier League.
Yes.
You know,
Antonio's been in the most danger, and he's still down there. And if he wins that pot, he has a massive chip lead. Sam's been in a lot of trouble too. He put himself in a bad spot in the first heat.
Tons of trouble.
Tons of trouble. First spot, he needed like the queens to beat the. He needed his tens to beat Antonio's queens in a spot he didn't have to play. And so Sam did put himself in trouble. I don't think he was playing the format the right way. See, Sam's so smart, he adjusted in the fourth one. But I don't think he was playing the format the right way. So he was in trouble the whole way. And Antonio was in more trouble the whole way. And Shaq has just glided through. And Antonio also and Tricket have both been all in and called. At least once each, right?
Sure. Now Shaq said something earlier in this final.
And Dan has not even been all in at the final table, so he's never been all in the points, never been in jeopardy, and never been all in at the final table. Yes, he did hit a 4, but it was not really an all in hand for him, right?
Right. He said something earlier at this final table. Now you'd have to check it, but I imagine it was. He got down to 270,000 here at the final, and he said this is the shortest stack I've had in the entire Premier League, which is only 30,000 off a starting stack.
Wow.
I mean, it's like.
50,000.
I mean, obviously he's gone bust a few times, but just in general.
Wow, Antonio with 9. So, how to milk the most? You know, I mean, basically he's sitting on. He started the hand with 320, so he started with 16 big blinds, and Dan might feel like he has to call 14 more big blinds.
Right, there is
an exact count.
He's not going to like that deuce.
No, I mean he can't really beat anything.
That's a good sign that I haven't insta-called yet, but I may have to.
Well, I think it's going to be how many more big blinds? 14 more big blinds to him.
How much?
324 total.
So I know that Dan's tempted to take a shot to win here, and this is it's very interesting.
This is a game changer as far as if he calls and wins. Is that what he's thinking about?
Well, I think what he's thinking. Yes, that has to cross your mind. You have to try to win the thing, and that might be enough of a reason to call. But 14 big blinds against Antonio in this spot, Ace Deuce is not likely to be good. On the other hand, he can beat King Queen. He can beat King Jack, but he's dominated if Antonio has a pair or an ace, and. So that's what he's thinking about.
So it's how much? Can you bring in the 50, please?
274.
Is for some reason I just see that ace deuce on the button, and I think about the very first Poker Million on the Isle of Man. I know you were there, and John Duffy three-handed made a raise on the button with the ace deuce, got pushed on big by the pocket threes, and he agonized and agonized, made the call. Actually, I think he probably snapped it off. When I think about it. It just hit it. It just hit it.
I call.
And Shaq's called as well. Could he do a Duffy and hit the ace?
So this is questionable
Mom,
whether
here.
or not
I need you, Mom. I
he
need
should
your
have
power.
played this
Come here.
hand. Again, though, it's close. You know,
Come
there's
here, Mom.
all the factors that I mentioned before.
Mom, come here.
Makes me miss my mom.
No ace, Mom. No ace, we're good.
No ace, he's very good, as a matter of fact. There's about 700,000 in this pot, and it is going to be back in action.
No ace.
You think it's coming, Jesse?
Yes, I do.
Me too.
Okay. No ace.
I think Dan Shaq. It's time for him to take insurance.
Okay, I love you.
Antonio to get some insurance.
Adrian,
Yeah,
you
I
want to give my
think
mom a heart
it's
attack,
coming.
Adrian? Huh? You want to give her a heart attack, Adrian? Don't do it.
No pressure then.
Bacho.
Just
no ace.
Oh.
But now no
Duck,
ace,
so that's a few outs.
No
It's a
ace
few
or two,
outs.
Mom.
And by the way,
No ace
Sam
or two.
Tricket, it's interesting to I don't know which way he's rooting here because there's only 50K difference between third and second. I think he would probably rather play Dan Shaq heads up. So club makes it interesting.
turn.
That's a very good card. No ace, no two.
I guess we were wrong, Jesse.
It's not over, but we double up, which is very good.
The magician
With one more
will
card to
be
come. No ace, no two.
strong.
Or you're gonna have a heart attack. Adrian, think about my mother. Okay? Think about my mother.
That's always good.
put
Oh,
the
my
rabbit back
God.
in the hat.
Wow.
Nice hand, sir.
Brutal.
I had queen 9 they had before.
You had a queen? Yeah.
Queen and a 9. I had 2 pair on the turn.
Nice playing with you boys.
He performed, Antonio, and especially at this final table where he went down to the nubbins and then went like wildfire.
Antonio showed why he's one of the best no-limit hold'em tournament players
I had
on the
just
planet,
right
bar
amount of chips
none.
that I had to call.
And he proved it today. And he just found a way to keep himself in the Premier League, and just with sheer talent and reading abilities, and made it all the way this far. And if no ace or deuce comes on the river there, he's going to be in great shape chip-wise.
He did. Van Schack now in position to take, I think, what would be the biggest title of his poker career.
Absolutely.
Up to this stage, and he's been a guy who wants it. For Antonio, if you didn't know about Antonio's, the man, the personality, you learned about it this week. He has been fun, he has been funny, he has been generous, and I think he's had a good time. But we're about to be heads up. It's going to be America versus the UK for the Premier League Poker sixth title. And I think Antonio could smile about that. We'll be back in a minute with this final.